How and when to harvest your onions is a common question many gardeners have. And in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the indicators that I use to help guide me in making that decision. And I'm also going to talk about how I'm going to prepare this no-till planting space for the next crop using chickens. The first indicator that I'm going to use is based on timing. Most onions are going to have a harvest window of about 100 days to about 120 days. Here in my zone, I typically plant around February 15th, the week of Valentine's Day. And these have met their threshold of that 120 days. And so I'm starting to see a lot of signs that these are getting ready to be harvested. When I get 50% or more of the remaining crop begins to die and fall over, that signals that it's nearing that harvest window, because when these die and fall over, they're no longer in a state of growth. Another indicator that I look at is when I start to see some of the plants begin to bolt. This can be a result of a lot of different factors, generally related to stress, but it can also be based on your timing of these plants thinking that they're going into their second year or they're nearing the end of their second year. I like to get them harvested before any more of these start to send out any of their energy into seed production. Another really great visual indicator is that the tops of your onions will begin to expose themselves, and it'll not only show you your harvest, the size and yield of what you're going to get out of your harvest, but I like to get them out at this stage because once they die, they're no longer putting on any growth and they're just going to be susceptible to sun scald in this condition. So today's a really great day to come through and try to get all the remaining onions that I have in this space harvested. Onions that have bolted will have this main leaf or stalk running all the way down through the center of the onion, thereby making it hollow and not a good option for storage. So these will need to be used first. I was able to time the harvest pretty well this year. I've got a pretty substantial yield with very minimal spoilage. The onions that are actually spoiled will either be composted or I can feed these directly to my sheep. They will eat them. Chickens actually like onion quite a bit as well. This is about the extent of what's going to be left back. Now that these onions have been removed out of this space, I like to bring in chickens, but before I do that, I'll bring in about 2 yards of compost and allow them to work this for a period of about a month. One of the real benefits in doing that is they're going to come through and take care of all these weeds so I don't have to do it in advance of my next crop, which is going to be a cover crop this fall. Curing your onions for storage, you just want to make sure that they have good airflow and that they're protected from the elements. What I've got is something pretty rudimentary. It's just a couple of sawhorses, and then I've got some lattice panel that I set the onions on, and I've got a box fan over here that I'm able to turn on, which gets airflow across the top of the onions, as well as there will be ventilation coming up from this lattice panel. I've isolated these bolted onions and just tied their tops together with some string so that I'll know which is which, and I put them nearest to the fan so that they'll be done soonest. It's been about 2 weeks since these onions have been drying, and all of these tops are starting to get to the point where I can start to do some removal. But prior to doing that, I'm going to go through and just assess which ones need to be either discarded or moved around. Like, for example, this one is kind of soft, and a lot of times you can feel that softness up in the top. It's not drying. This is a bad onion. I'll pull this one out, put it over here with these others that are not going to make the grade. The rest of these are curing nicely. Occasionally you'll find one that's kind of soft and needs to be removed. What I look for is to make sure that all of the moisture is taken out of these tops. And when they get to that point, they're ready for storage. Some of these are going to require a little bit more drying, but I come through and I'll just assess them and pull the ones out that are ready to be put into storage. And the ones that need a little bit more time, I will consolidate, move a little bit closer to the fan, and allow them to remain out here for a little bit longer. But essentially, what I'm looking for is feeling down close to the onion, and when all the moisture is taken out of these onion tops, I'll remove these tops, leaving about 4 inches or so, and then they'll be able to be placed into storage. Gone through and removed all the tops, and I'm going to allow this to cure for probably another week and a half or 2, at which point I'll go through again and re-triage and pull out any ones that are not going to be suitable for storage. Any of the ones that are soft, I pull out, and this is about what I was able to pull out. Some of these are not going to be viable, and these will get composted, and this is what continued to bolt. So these are still good onions. They will get used straight away, though. They will not be suitable for storage. This year's harvest yielded 168 pounds of onions going into storage. We had 6 different varieties, each of which will be stored separately in a temperature-controlled environment, isolated and protected from direct sunlight. It's important to go through and periodically check the status of your onions to make sure that you don't have any that are starting to go bad on you. And I typically get somewhere around 4 to 5 months of storage if I keep my temperatures at around 75 degrees or lower. Bear in mind, the lower your temperature, the longer your onions are going to store, so long as they're kept in a cool, dark, and dry place. So the 168 pounds of onions that we ended up with this year all came from $7 worth of seed that was purchased. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.